What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and some more Birthright coverage as we continue making our way through the domains of the Northern Marches. So today we're going to take a look at Markazor Mur Kilad. So this is one of the puppet states here of the Gorgon, and as we'll see, actually it's two domains here. They're both puppet domains, and really, just another thing that makes the Gorgon just such a dangerous realm to even contemplate trying to deal with, and it's just another reason they're sort of the main bad guy for the whole setting. When you have a couple of countries here that you can just use as buffers and really just essentially unlimited cannon fodder, it's hard to even contemplate somehow permanently dealing with the Gorgon. And given that creature, he's been around for I think 2,000 years plus in the setting. So, I mean, obviously everyone else has failed to take him down since then. So, but anyway, let's jump into the domain specifically here. So, Lawful Evil not available for PCs naturally. So, again, not domains that you necessarily have to, deal with in the sense of, if you're trying to deal with the Gorgon directly, but you might find yourself still in and around these domains for various reasons, and so it's still worth having a bit of a background on these. So Markazor is the larger of the two here with multiple provinces. Again, fairly average settlement here. A lot of 3s and 2s. We do have a 4 here for the Shattered Hills. And then interestingly, Sutran Hills as basically the mirror opposite of that. Then Mur Kilad, much smaller, but again, fairly well settled. And we actually have a 5 there on Crushing Rock. So, very briefly here, and again, this is one of the shorter descriptions, especially considering we're covering 2 realms and basically this single page here. So there's a lot for the DM to sort of fill in, but given, again, excuse me, the resources available to the Gorgon, you can essentially just have free reign to fill in a lot of the blanks here as to what these guys might have available as far as like standing forces and just other resources and things like that. So the regions of these two puppet states, though mortal enemies, do not seem so different. The first, Godar Thurinson of Mur Kilad, just a very minor bloodline there, is a blustery dwarf with nothing but contempt for non-dwarves. And then on the other hand, Razik Fanggrabber, fun name there, and again, extremely minor bloodline there, 2. Queen of Markazor, grew to adulthood, taught to regard all others as blood enemies of the goblins. Their master, the Gorgon, has given them strict orders to work together to produce the fiercest army Cerelia has ever seen. The two, therefore, they've united their forces under pain of death, and now the dwarves and goblins fight side by side. So, just a quick pause there, right? Where else are you going to see that actually happening? So, and then, let's contrast this if you checked out our other video on Thurazor, which is another goblin domain, but not under the sway of the Gorgon. So, so you have just all kinds of things that stand out here in the sort of core Birthright setting here in Anweir and neighboring domains. So yeah, you got goblins and dwarves working hand in hand here. Not by choice, of course, but there's a bigger threat to them certainly if they don't do that. Lieutenants, basically, again, sort of free reign here, nothing specifically mentioned, but several subordinate goblins and dwarves would like nothing more than to step into leadership spots. The Gorgon has always has replacements waiting for old leaders groomed and waiting. So, if somehow either of them were slipping or not taking care of things, then, the Gorgon certainly, again, will have replacements. So, yeah, you might, let's say you were adventuring and somehow it came about that you got rid of either or both of the leaders. Certainly that would, maybe cause some sort of minor disruption to the Gorgon. But again, he's got people waiting. So, your temporary victory there, will be short-lived. And, if anything, will also serve to sort of draw the Gorgon's attention towards you. So depending on whether you're playing as adventurers or running domains yourselves, again, either way, you're going to, likely find yourself with some increased attention from the Gorgon himself, and by extension, his, various and practically limitless resources. So provinces here, Markazor encompasses 7, Mur Kilad only 2, and Anweirians call them puppet states for good reason. Basically, again, Gorgon controls all resources here, so no question asked as far as sources and guilds and all that. That's strictly Gorgon controlled there. The only significant NPC in these realms is the Gorgon. No trade takes place between either kingdom and the rest of Annuir, naturally. All the goods they produce basically go directly to the Gorgon's crown, in return for which they receive permission to raid caravans for food. So hey, you get to survive by raiding as long as they take care of the trade and all that, and they don't see any profit from that or anything. A mage hiding in Mur Kilad uses the mountains to power strange magic, but no one knows whether this peak mage, works for or against the Gorgon. So that's interesting too. So not one that often comes up, but could be a really interesting adventure in and of itself, just to gain more information for whether for yourselves, if you're working for a ruler, or your own countries or domains, or just as adventurers, and maybe selling that information on. And there's all kinds of other weird and enigmatic sort of NPC mages out there, right? We got the sword mage, the eyeless one, the wizard, just as a name for one of the other crazy NPCs. So and now we add this peak mage to it. So could be something where the Gorgon is letting little rumors like that trickle out, just in the hopes of maybe luring blooded adventurers to these domains. But it could also be something real, and that's something that is there for fertile ground, however the DM wants to roll with it. So, description of the lands here. Basically harsh and rough. When you take a look at the map, it's very rugged and mountainous. So they've suffered greatly from goblin and dwarf mining efforts for the manufacture of weapons for the Gorgon's armies. Basically, no trees, polluted rivers, and just pockmarked mountains. Still, the populace combs the land for more resources. The puppet states have no cities, just small towns situated to best serve the Gorgon's war effort, moving as the abomination's strategy changes. Those living in the temporary towns have always felt displaced. And then the goblins and dwarves seem sullen, resentful of the Gorgon's power over them. Just because they live together doesn't mean they like each other, and in fact each race has come to hate the other even more now over time. The coals of the animosity remain banked, but it won't take much for them to essentially come to the forefront. But since the penalty for fighting within the ranks is death, the two peoples live in peace for now. However, their resentment comes through in their dealings with others. Both races always seem actively hostile to visitors, ready to leap into a fight with little provocation. The dwarves originally chose their monster-infested kingdom so they could protect the entire land from Orog incursions. The Gorgon's arrival, however, changed all that, and basically now Orogs roam the area, bullying at whim, so ultimately failing in that regard. So now there are some other supplements too that hint at the dwarves of Baruch Ajik, which we'll get to when we get to the Eastern Marches, sort of making some overtures towards possibly having dealings with Mur Kilad, and maybe sort of mending fences that way. But again, very rough to do when the Gorgon is just ever present and a very real existential threat there. So there's lots of little hints there, but again, in the grander scheme of things, there's lots of neat adventure hooks that you could certainly sink into. Or again, if you're running things on the political, like the domain side, and playing the game that way, that would certainly be a great way to sort of start messing with the Gorgon, if you at least have those kind of aspirations, is either get these two at each other's throats so that conflict actually breaks out, and kind of keep the Gorgon focused on that, and then see if any of these are redeemable. Potentially the dwarves, that could, again, if you're able to sort of help get the dwarves here at Mur Kilad maybe somewhat freed or open to the idea of rebelling against the Gorgon, that might, depending on your relationship with Baruch Ajik, again, give you some serious rewards in that regard, and sort of positive relations with the dwarves of that domain. So, but lots of interesting things going on here. Now, again, no armies are mentioned, so I would say, given that the Gorgon really is going to run a lot of things directly, at best, I would say token forces here, but again, the Gorgon isn't far away, so certainly could deploy his forces here within a very short time. But again, the DM should feel free to raise something like lots and lots of goblin or dwarf sort of levy type units too, that you can sort of just modify some of the existing rules for on some of the army stat cards, which again we'll cover when we eventually get to covering how the battle system and everything works. But anyway, let us know your experiences, guys, with Markazor Mur Kilad, whether you've adventured in and around there, dealt with them as domain rulers, or just fun happenings in your campaigns. Hit us up in the comments as always. Thanks for watching. We'll be moving on with more coverage in the Northern Marches. Take care.